Raquel Couceiro is a filmmaker and the head of fashion gaming at SHOWstudio. Born and raised in Lisbon, Portugal, Raquel creates fashion films for brands and artists such as Burberry, Maison Margiela, Givenchy, Lady Gaga, Travis Scott, amongst others. Couceiro's work focuses on exploring a breadth of film techniques and combining various fields of multimedia and art in the hope of breaking traditional boundaries and creating strong visual languages. Couceiro has previously worked in the broadcasting industry in Havana and Lisbon before moving to London in 2012.
Cool.
So thanks very much. Welcome back to the final session. This talk or conversation is maybe going to be slightly like freeform, so please bear with us. Raquel, I don't know, not totally sure how we're going to do this, but we can...
Wait, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
We'll improvise. It'll be good. Hi, everyone. My name is Raquel. As the Dark Souls lady said, you know a little bit about myself. So I'm a filmmaker and I'm the head fashion gaming at SHOWstudio. We could sit here and I could talk to you guys about how gaming and fashion got to the place that they are right now. But I thought what would be really cool to do is actually go for the SHOWstudio archive and actually see how fashion, always really hungry for technology, always was ahead of the game. So I think by looking at the past and the techniques that we're using back then, we can actually be well informed about where we are right now and why we are here. So I was thinking about doing a little past dive through the archive and show you some pretty oldies and hope you guys like it. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. So the first film that I want to watch is a film called Jaywalk. So to tell you a little bit about SHOWstudio started in the year 2000 with the introduction of the internet. And like fashion photography that came after fashion illustration, when cameras and stills became more available, when the internet was accessible to everyone, we thought there would be a really good, Nick Knight thought, there would be a really good place for us to put fashion film and actually for the first time in forever see fashion in motion. So from the 2000s, we have been developing like fashion films and looking forward to new techniques. The film that you're watching right now is from 2000 and is Jay Alexander. I don't know if anyone knows who he is, but he trains walks for really big models. So in that film is a mocap of a recreation of a Naomi walk. So as you guys can see, already in 2000, we were using like techniques and looking forward to use things like mocap. The idea is that we wanted to make things like a specific catwalk last forever, because at a point that Naomi breaks a leg and she cannot walk anymore, or Jay Alexander cannot do those anymore. If we mocap them, that means that generations in the future can go and get that information and get it out there, maybe into a digital platform. So a little bit of where we were at that point. This film is called Sweet, and it was the first time that we used 3D scanning. The idea is we have this amazing stylist called Jane Howe, and she created these beautiful pieces of candy wraps. But those pieces would not last forever. Those pieces will barely last a shoot, to be honest, as soon as you put it in a model. So the idea that we wanted is to 3D scan them so we could make them last forever. Again, the same sort of thought that we had with Jaywalk. But this is, again, us trying to capture fashion and make it last forever, like in the digital world that now is really available with gaming. We'll get there. But this So yeah, as you can see, 20 years ago, 24, probably most of you weren't alive back then. Maybe some of you were, I don't know.
Some of us were,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
we were. Everyone else not.
Too alive.
Yes. But yeah, so you can see, even knowing that we came miles ahead with technology, you can see that there was already like where fashion was at the moment and this need to like eternalize moments and things and actually keep it for next generations. So that is sweet. I'm not going to show you the whole film, otherwise we're going to be here till tomorrow. Our next film. This is really fun. I'm going to jump from 2000 to 2006. And this, again, this was a V&A exhibition that we had. And what we wanted to do is, again, always this idea of make things last forever and eternalize moments. And we got Naomi to do some beautiful posing. And then we printed a 25-foot tall, am I saying it wrong? Like 7 meters foot tall for the Europeans here. Statue of Naomi that was placed at the V&A, and throughout the entire exhibition, people could go and draw on the projections. Again, this was the idea of actually mixing virtual and reality. So we would scan Naomi in real life, bring it back to digital, and then bring this back to life. So we're again trying to cross bridges in 2006, which I think is really cool, especially like, I don't know if you guys are into it, but I think like with video games and everything, there's like such this wanting to bring the characters and the fashion back into reality. So I think this is a little bit of a dabble of what to come in the future. Okay, our next film, I cannot tell which one this is just by the thumbnail. Okay, jumping again quite a little bit in time. In 2013, we did our first like full-on 3D campaign for Lane Crawford, which again, coming back from Jaywalk and mocap, we mocapped the amazing model Mingzi. I don't know if you guys know, but she's an amazing model. And we wanted to capture her likeness and actually use it in this new modern way. And this is was our first tackle of like recreating someone's likeness plus their mocap. And I think for 2013, we did a really good job. Obviously, you can see how the technology wasn't quite there. So the 3D scans, the pulling the polygons is obviously because things were not modeled to the levels that we can do nowadays. But I think it's pretty fun. And it feels, even knowing that was like more than 10 years ago, like 20 years ago, it feels like a lot of what we're doing right now and we're creating for video games, et cetera, et cetera.
Can I just ask with that? Because I think like seeing it now, that...
Do you hate it?
No, the total opposite. I was like thinking like the kind of the kind of stretching, of like the seeming sort of like technical kind of weaknesses seem its strength in like now, right? Like in kind of present day. And I was kind of curious, like at the time when you were making it, whether those technical limitations were things that you were like frustrated with, or whether there were things that you were kind of celebrating.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely celebrating it. The thing at SHOWstudio and with Nick is we actually love mistakes and we love to use new technology, but actually use the faults on it, use the things that were not controlled. We're going to get there, but we're using a lot of AI right now. And the things that we're having trouble with is actually we're fighting against it because it's trying to make things really perfect and really real, whilst we actually want to remove it and make it abstract and creative. So we have a little bit of a fight there. And since the beginning, that's what we really like about things, is like the little mistakes. And I think that is where you can almost see the hand of the artist. Do you know what I mean? By seeing those mistakes, because I suppose any company could have made her walk really nicely, but not everyone could have made her look that way with those polygons coming out of her and utilizing her mistakes and limitations. So that is something that at Show we really like. We really like mistakes.
Yeah.
We embrace them for most part, except when they're terrible. Okay, so we're jumping to, I think it's 2012. And this is really cool because this is a film called As If, and sorry, it's really noisy. And what we wanted at this point is because obviously we're exploring the internet and exploring new languages. And we actually wanted the internet to be part of our visuals. So we used a lot of like cues of modern language, like the buttons on your Finder, green screen, mistakes, errors, and actually put it into a film. So bringing the internet language back into the visuals that we're all digesting. Again, this was really interesting. This was the beginning of like when ZBrush, for example, became really accessible. So really exploring it there. But is again a mix of like 3D films, stills, and we're just trying to push boundaries through, and we're just trying to like mix worlds together. It was a really fun film. If I put it out loud, it's kind of a vibe. It's really cool. And what is cool about it is that I still feel it feels very now, even knowing that it's obviously from a specific time. It was very 2012, but still feels now somehow. There was like some languages that we really didn't develop much from. So there was a part that is coming soon that is my favorite part. Wait a second. Right. So like the use of Google Maps that was like introduced around that time, which we really love. And obviously it was a time where like Pornhub and everything was really big. So yeah. This is like our 2012 bringing the internet back to us and actually use it as visuals, not as something that we're acknowledging as part of our communication. I'm going to move forward. All these videos are at SHOWstudio, so you can watch them all there. I'm going to click, so you're not part of this anymore. I'm sorry. It's out. Again, about bringing it back to gaming and where we are at right now, we always had the desire to actually create worlds where the fashion exists and not show you just the stills or the film in the studio, but actually bring you the whole history and designers' almost like world and lore. So we did in 2015 this beautiful film for Marika Tranzu. She's an amazing designer that does like this clothes. They're really full of detail, full of information, full of like references. And we wanted to, for each one of her outfits, because we were celebrating a lot of collections back then, we wanted to create almost this dollhouse. In each room will be a different look. We had Carly Kloss and Lily Dolson as the models here, and it was a really fun shoot. And then bringing it back to, imagine like this digital, like mad Alice in Wonderland dollhouse. It was, again, if you think about where we are, and I'm going to keep on referencing where we are now with fashion and gaming and world building, this was our attempt in 2015 to do those things. This is my favorite part of the film. Really proud of that green room. Took ages. Obviously, technology was not where it is right now. So if it looks a little bit old and dated, it's because it is a little bit old and dated. But you see, like, her clothes are amazing, and then just scream doll and like something that you see in this mystery house. So yeah, so this was celebrating like Marika Tranzu in 2015, which was really fun. Okay, again, I'm going to skip through it. Okay.
You do it.
Yeah.
Totally up to you.
I feel bad. I don't know. Do you guys want to watch more? Am I not letting you watch the films? No, you can watch the films on your own time. It's fine. Okay. Here again, world creation. Did I play? Did I play? Yes. Okay, cool. World creation. What we also thought it was really important to us, that is still really important to us, is actually crossing between different art forms. So we really like fashion to be integrated with music, to be integrated with gaming, to be integrated with fine art. So what we're trying to do here is like we did this activation for Beats back in the days. This was before Beats fell, and now beats have a revival again. So back in the days, whilst it was still a thing before they fell down, we're trying to create this world that brings music, fashion, technology together. It was the first time that we explored. We really wanted interaction, and we really wanted people to engage with the films, not only by watching them, but by experiencing them, almost to immerse themselves into the videos. So as you could, we go back. Can we play it again? So it was the first time that we actually decided to explore. So this is a language that came from Azif and ZBrush and things like that. But we wanted to explore 360 video. So if you can see, at some point of this video, we actually create this 3D environment that we create in 360. And we explore it with the camera right now. But because the technology wasn't quite there at the time, we couldn't actually put this out as a video that we just upload it on YouTube and you could scroll it through. So this was our idea of like where technology is going. And the next video that I'm going to show you is called Reality Universe. And this was a film that we did with John Galliano for Margiela. It was one of their first campaigns back when she was designing for them. And the idea of this is really interesting because we had a concept for John is full of references. And there's almost this like story that he did with Nick back in the 90s that was based on manga, and where the characters like Karen Elson was like doing almost this like anime type look to her. It was really cool. And John kind of wanted to recreate that. So on this film, we wanted to create this world that almost looks surreal, but at the same time, she looks like a character from a video game from another world. I can show you here because of the format, presentation and everything, but this video has its counterpart that is all a 360 video. So we're going to see it here flat, but this is us wanting to explore 360, and this is all 360 video. You're just seeing it from the front view right now. It's really beautiful, so I'm going to let you just indulge those visuals a little bit. I'm obviously really proud of this one. But I do think it feels very now in terms of like, it feels modern, it feels surreal, it feels almost like a world that you want to be part of. She looks like a character, the clothes were great. And also the cool thing about it is that we shot all of this inverted. So we actually shot it exactly how you're seeing it. And we didn't do this in post. So when you shot something inverted, I don't know how many of you actually shoot stuff, but when you shoot something inverted, what happens is just like your lights become dark. So you're actually lighting everything with a spotlight that is like this dark light, and everything that is really dark obviously becomes light. So actually seeing that on set, you actually, with your naked eye, you actually making your light really horrible in real life. But then what the camera sees, because the camera ingesting it in invert, is capturing it in a beautiful way. So it's a really interesting thing to do. And it was really interesting that it was not done in post. It was done all in camera. But yeah, it was this idea that she is almost this anime type character, and she just lost into this dystopian world, which is a lot of narrative for a non-narrative fashion film. But we were trying, and again, we wanted to explore different worlds and different feelings, world creation. After this scene, there's something really cute that is like this pink room that in reality was all like a black cove in the studio. So it was just like, it's really interesting. I will let you get there. The model is Ducky, and she was doing an amazing job. It was some rough 3 days. Yeah, so this room here was actually all a black cove, but then obviously when you invert the colors, it becomes this beautiful, like dreamy pink, which is great. Anyway,
it reminds me of, I heard the story of like early film, because of the, I guess like the technical limitations, yeah. They would paint the actor's skin this like bright green.
Yes, they would.
Because it would in the black and white, it would
read as really like deeply.
Yeah. So it kind of reminds me of this kind of altering sort of like reality for the for the camera.
But it's really cool. Like if the things that you can do, the thing that is also really important to realize is that besides technology like motion capture in 3D, world building can come in different forms. And we all have access to internet and to video cameras in our phones. So we all like spoiled for choice of what we can do. And this is obviously done normal film camera. Anyway, I'm going to move on. That film is long. Okay, and now we get to 2020 during the pandemic. Those were fun times. And again, the fashion industry is always so keen to communicate with the target audience. And they are always so keen to be connected and be with the now. And that's during the time that we all locked down, I think it was really trendy for us to look, how can we communicate? How can we hang out with people? What is happening? And obviously fashion needs to sell. And at the same time, it also needs to express itself because it doesn't live in a vacuum by itself. What we did on this film, it's what most people did during that time, is we did this entire film through Zoom, which was a really fun experience because we got amazing makeup artists like Val Garland and Sam McKnight to do the hair. So before the film started, what we did is they would have a whole 2-hour session with each model and explain them how to do their hair and their makeup and everything. And then they'll put the clothes themselves, and then they would appear in front of the camera and you shoot it almost like you do a normal shoot, but just using the lens in front that are on your laptop, which was really fun. And I'm going to let it get there. But obviously, because due to the type of models and who we use and everything, we obviously, for this shoot, we used Gigi Hadid. No, actually, Bella Hadid. And obviously, it's in her house, which is this massive ranch farm. So literally, she arrives. She's really cute. She arrives and she has some goats. And she literally is in this beautiful Valentino dresses, like climbing trees. And again, there's something quite magical about the connection between seeing the behind the screens almost, see these people for who they really are within their environment, which again comes from the ideas of connection, of us being all together. Look at the goat. How cute is a goat? Anyway, that was really fun shoot. Look at that. She's honestly a gem, and this was really fun. But anyway, it gives you this level of like you interacting with a model and fashion becoming close to you because you're obviously using Zoom. And back then, we were all using Zooms to communicate with our family. So making something fun out of it was kind of a cool thing. There's her in the beautiful Valentino climbing trees, which is a crime, but it's fine.
I was thinking it reminds me of the Martine Rose piece that they produced during the lockdown as well, where they sent, I guess, like iPhones to 50 people around the world and sent them clothes as well, and like got the models to film themselves. Yeah. So it's a similar kind of thing, like them directing these kind of multiple shoots, but like through Zoom, like just saying, okay, like, kind of amazing.
But I think that really just shows like how fashion is always like so in the now when it comes to technology and so craving like communication, and they want to be where everyone is, and everyone back then was on Zoom. It was a thing. Again, I'm going to move forward to the next film, but I'm going to explain to you a little bit before because I only pulled a couple of clips from it. So also during lockdown, we did this really fun Burberry campaign that the model was Kendall Jenner. But obviously we had the problem. There was a pandemic. We didn't want to do another Zoom video. So what were we going to do? So what we did is we asked Kendall to just take a lot of pictures of herself, 3D scan herself in her phone, and then we send a mocap suit to a movement coach. And we remodeled Kendall's face onto a mocap, and we created like the set that was supposed to be exactly the set that the collection was going to be shot. If it was shot for real, but actually we created it all in 3D, which was really fun because she scanned herself. It was This is cool. Yes. Yeah. So this is how the real campaign would have looked. We had the same set designer. They would have done the real campaign. This is a real campaign, but in the campaign in IRL. So it was just like a really cool way. And again, comes back from us trying to capture the essence of someone, to make it last forever, to put it online, and to Kendall will, how she looks will change, but this candle will live forever. And you can always, you can't really because of loads of reasons, but theoretically you could grab her with this likeness at her 23 and just use her, which kind of like makes things eternal in a way. I'm rambling. Just stop me if I'm rambling. Yes, and more videos. Anyway, so that was really fun. Okay, and then in 2021, we're almost there. In 2021, we, again, after lockdown, the end of 2021, we have been like inundated by internet and by being online so much that we realized that everyone at the studio had been in Snapchat and was literally obsessed with Snapchat. So we decided to do an editorial that was literally using like Snapchat filters onto the models, which was really fun because it was the first thing that we did after we came back from lockdown. But at the same time, we were trying to put digital faces on us, which was a really weird, like bizarre thing of us going back to like, oh, we really miss just using like snap filters in our faces so we don't have to look at each other. So that was fun. But again, we wanted to feel fun and we wanted to feel almost like very gamified. We were changing, so the models were the ones actually changing their face filters. It was very like interactive. And again, obviously, as you can see, there's a lot of like all the mistakes from Snapchat. We really embrace our mistakes there. So we just wanted to have fun and we just wanted to like play around after being like locked for so long and being so crazy with like human contact. But yeah, so this was the story and it was really fun. I'm gonna let this play a little bit. So I've been rambling. It was quite pretty. Anyway, we just wanted to, I think we all like are so used to snap filters, to things like that, but to actually bring it back into fashion, to bring like things that we see every day that we actually do with our friends and actually bring it back to something that you, because sometimes fashion is a little bit snobbish in a way, so actually bring it down a peg and actually make it fun could be quite cool. This was really fun. Anyway. So
I guess also it's like at least in sort of like high fashion, this kinds of augmentation would be tried to be kind of like hidden, right? Like I mean, like it's not made explicit, even though obviously it happens all the time.
Yeah,
like making it so explicit, something that at least in like high fashion would typically try to kind of hide, right?
Yeah. It's also like the idea that we're already trying to explore the idea of avatars and like character creation. Like it's something that we always wanted to do, but we always focused a lot on the environment and where we place our films or our stills. And here we actually trying to bring like character design into real life in the really archaic way, but we wanted to have fun with it. I say archaic way. These things take a lot of work to do, by the way. Okay. And then we're almost there. In 2021, we went back to being really obsessed with mocap. We were working with like a lot of artists that after lockdown were really keen to do concerts and to put music videos out. So we did a lot of mocap for Gaga, for her tour, for her Chromatica Ball. And we did some mocap for New York for her music video. And here I just want to show you some mocap of her performing. She wanted that, she really performed this, and she really wanted her performance to last forever because she doesn't know how long more she's going to be able to do what she does being on stage. So she wanted her performance to be eternalized. So in years to come, you can go and be in this digital world and actually see the art performing exactly like she would. No one is imposing anything on her. That is literally her. And there's the music video, but not going to show you that.
I think this, I mean, it's something really striking to see such a video of such a figure. Like, because you kind of see, you know, like people, if you use like 3D modeling software, blah, blah, you see like these kinds of characters all the time, and you sort of don't think of them as a figure. You just think of them as, so it's like, internally, it's like tripping me a little bit to think that this was actually like Bjork making these moves.
Yeah.
And this is somehow sort of like actually sort of like, like articulation of her in some way, like, or, it's kind of, Yeah,
you know what? And the most fun thing to see is actually when you have to put Bjork or Gaga into the motion suit with those pompons everywhere, and you actually have to watch them perform, and you're just like, cool, that's fun. That is...
It's like the most unglamorous kind of thing, right?
It is terrifying. It is horrific. And they're there like, Gaga for Chromatic Ball, she did the poker face, which she did her whole choreo. She proper danced, just proper like sweating and giving her all. And she's wearing this like tight suit, like flat shoes and like this pompons. You're just like, oh my God, this is so weird. It looks really good in reality when you actually add the model and attach everything to it. But the reality of making these things is kind of it's kind of bizarre. But anyway.
Was it like a closed shoe, like very small?
At that point, you actually ask the whole crew to get out. But you really want to be one of the lucky ones that stay inside and actually watch it live. You want to watch them perform, first of all, on a one-to-one, but also this kind of fun. Okay, so I have been talking a lot about how we've been using technology and how we're always looking into like world building and moving forward with technology, like fashion is really hungry for it. But in 2023, if I'm not wrong, we actually wanted to pay respect back to games and to character design. And we developed this series where we had the most amazing Emily actually reviewing the fashion in characters, in OG characters. Like, for example, this episode is about Peaches, but she does Lightning from Final Fantasy. She does Wesker from Resident Evil. A lot of like OG characters that you just assume they are what they are, but obviously like the amount of references there is in what they're wearing, and like this dress, for example, that Princess Peach wears is extremely accurate for the time, and it has an incredible amount of reference from like the gloves to the types of stones that they are in her crown. So it's not like just fashion is trying to jump into game, but fashion has always been referenced on like game design and character design, you know. Ian McKellen, I think, is this great character designer. He designs like a lot of outfits, for example, Princess Amidala in the Star Wars games, and he uses so much references, like so much of his sketchbooks are like full of like Iris van Herpen references, like McQueen and things like that. So this interaction between fashion and gaming always has been happening, but I think it had always been very one-sided. And now fashion is just like, oh, actually, we also like you guys. So anyway, so that is something. And this was season 1. We have a couple of episodes, and we're now in progress to season 2. And now, cool. This is one of our latest shoots. We're in 2024 right now. Yippee! And this is a Naomi shoot that we did for Vogue Greece. What we're trying to develop in terms of 3D scanning, because we always have been, I haven't been showing you guys, but we always have been doing a lot of 3D scanning from all our artists and friends that visit SHOWstudio, and then we also print them a little statue, because we want to internalize them. We want them to, like, that moment lasts forever. So we always 3D scan that, and we always shoot Nick's shoots, but now we're also 3D scanning his shoots because we want those moments again to last forever. What is really fun about the 3D scanning of 3D environments that we're doing right now is that we're using this technique called Gaussian splatter, where we are, again, fighting the technology by... we use a 3D software that is supposed to do like photorealistic 3D scans of a moment. So it's supposed to almost do a 3D scan of a still with direct lighting. Is not supposed to be like this overall really well lit thing. And what we're doing is fighting against it and saying, actually, instead of doing this one moment, we're going to do in parts. So the lighting is going to change. And by doing that, we feed it through an AI that then adds this Gaussian splatters, is almost those brushes that almost look like painting. And it develops almost this paintly technique in 3D, which is quite fun. But again, so we're back to where we were with America Transrate 2015, but we're developing like how we approached 3D and 3D scanning. Because we also just did a lot of 3D. We need to find something new to do. Cool. This is really cool. And we had at the beginning of the year, the pleasure of working on a lot of activations for the Met exhibition, Reawakening Sleeping Beauties, the Sleeping Beauty one. And the dilemma we had with that exhibition is all the garments that are shown in it are super delicate and they're fading because of the times. And so they're just, I don't know if any of you went to the exhibition, so they're all just laying flat and they can barely be moved, they can barely be touched because they're falling apart. And we were just like, we're trying to use 3D. We used a lot of techniques here, but we were trying to use 3D to almost bring those garments that right now you look at them and the color has faded, they're full of tears, and recreate them. So now this piece that was completely dead and gone is for everyone to see and can be worn, and it moves exactly like it used to move back in the days during it was a lot of work, by the way. So we scanned the dress and then we recreated like stitch by stitch, piece by piece. And then we obviously did it a lot in Houdini. And then it was about getting the weight of the fabric right, how the conjunctions, how like the seams were sewn together, that all influences how, can I play it again? Sorry, always needed.
Yeah, exactly.
So there is a magic about bringing something that was gone back to life. And I think that is what always has been our intention. And with this exhibition for the Met, we actually had the opportunity of doing that. There's a lot of hours, a lot of crying. We also got Giselle to do the mocap. So again, we bring back mocap of her dancing, of her body shape. But there's also like the idea that these are couture dresses. Like most of us, I don't know everyone's economic situation, but most of us will never have access to this. We're never going to be able to buy a couture dress or have a couture dress made for us or made to fit us. But by now having this in a digital world, it means that it kind of makes it more accessible in a way. Now, this couture piece can be worn by an avatar. It can be worn by you in a different world, which I think is really exciting, but then it brings a lot of questions about exclusivity and is couture still couture if everyone can have access in it, but it kind of democratizes it. So in my opinion, it's actually a really cool thing. So yeah, so everyone can go and have this beautiful 17th century dress now. Not really, but in theory you could. Another one of our activations for the Met was, there was this room that was all based on flowers, and we had all these dresses. They were based on this beautiful yellow little flowers. And we really wanted to showcase how full of references and how detailed like designers are when they design their clothes. So we used AI. We obviously have access to Luma and to Runway. So we develop and we teach this AI about a lot of flowers. We give them a lot of database. So Giselle is moving and she becomes a flower and vice versa. And there's something quite seamless and quite cool about it, because a designer can go to you and say, this piece is inspired by this, this, and this. And sometimes lack of imagination is a thing. Sometimes you're just like, really? Is a yellow dress? But then when you actually see it and you see it moving, then it makes so much sense. And there's also something really fun at the end of this film that we're going to get there. And that's, again, we always use like 3D scans. We always love that. But for the first time in forever, we actually did a 3D scan that it was not on the T-pose, it was not static, but we actually 3D scanning a rig with the model actually moving. So we're going to get to that now. And for us, this was like amazing, because we think that a fashion film could easily be just a still in motion, but now you have the opportunity of get almost a still, but actually travel through it, and see it from different angles. This is literally a 3D version of a beautiful fashion still. So it was really interesting. There's a couple of breakages in the model, because obviously getting like a 3D scan of someone moving at that instant is quite a thing. But we're really proud of this technique. Unfortunately, we only end up using this part of the film, but there's something quite cool about this.
Is that technique something in future projects that you would like to kind of explore?
Yeah, we really love it, and we really would love to explore. But the problem with 3D scanning is that technology is available, but it's not as available. Like 3D scanning rigs is still quite expensive. And to actually get the right moment and the right scan at the right time, it's a massive waste of money, if you think about it, because like the amount of, this was like dozens and dozens and dozens of scans that had to be developed until we found one that we just like, this is the one. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So there is like there's money restrictions on it, but like everything, technology gets more accessible. So I think this will be, Nick always told me that like fashion film is like a still in motion. I think this is where the future for stills is imagine that you can do like some beautiful motion, and then you can actually explore it, see it from different angles. I think there's amazing things that can be done with that. And there's something quite cool to explore there. The last activation that I'm going to show you from the Met is this. There's this beautiful coat from Yves Saint Laurent. And the Met had these domes where you went inside and then you look above and you could see this video above you. And again, we really wanted interaction. We really wanted people to engage with this garment. So what we did is we remodeled, and there's a new company a sister company of SHOWstudio called A New Plane, where Tom Wondrag and his team like developed a 3D scan like the previous one, the garment, and then you redo every single detail, every single beads. There's hundreds of thousands of beads. It's photorealistic, and you get closer to this garment that you ever could in real life. Again, it's giving you accessibility to something that is so exclusive before, and that is democratizing fashion, and that's really brilliant in my opinion. But that was really fun. And finally, we are in nowadays, and I want to talk about AI and where we are with it. Obviously, odds agreeing with AI and what it means for visual artists and for people moving forward is you can't ignore it. And what we're trying to do, again, like I mentioned before, is we're fighting a little bit against it in the way that AI is trying to go really realistic. And we're trying to be like, no, if it was to create in real life, we would have. We don't want to do that. We want to embrace the mistakes. We want to create something different that we couldn't even imagine. That's why we want to use it. So we're using Lumen, we're using Runway. We obviously have access to the betas of it. And what it does is now you write some prompts on it, and it actually develops from stills to video. And what we do is we do a lot of pass, a lot of prompts, and then we pick the best parts of all the AIs, and then we combine them into films, which is quite fun because saying that, I'm an editor, so realistically, that is my job gone. But not really. But there's something quite cool about seeing what AI is doing and how it's creating movements out of stills and how it's making certain choices to go certain ways. We're not telling it where to look for or where to make it move. It's actually making its own choices. And I think that is pretty slick and pretty cool. And yeah, and that is what we are right now with technology and like immortalizing things. I think in terms of like fashion and the possibilities that we have with gaming and everything, obviously since 2015, we have been nibbling at it with Gasquet doing lighting for Louis Vuitton and things like that. But with the perfect storm of the pandemic, gaming engines and games are so accessible, and like games like Fortnite, Minecraft are where people hang out. So it makes total sense for fashion to be there. But what I wanted to showcase is like technology was always going to take us that way. And I think besides the monetary factors and the exposure factors and teaching a new audience by exposing them to advertising within game, so passive advertising, I think it makes sense with things like Unreal for us to actually be able to explore new worlds. Alexander McQueen used to come to a studio. He used to collaborate with Nick a lot. And he did an interview at Show. And one of the passages is like someone asks him back in the days, in the early 2000s, just like, are you excited to design anything digitally? And he was just like, I can't wait for it. I'm so excited to not have real life limitations. So I think that was always a wanting, and we're finally there with technology where we can do that. So yeah, so great. That was my passage through time. I'm sorry about that. I hope that was inspiring. Good point.
A few questions.
No, of course you do.
I guess it's really to do with like, I guess come back to the kind of themes of the summit, and I guess like thinking about fashion and gaming, and where I remember actually the conversation that we had. Was it earlier this week or last week? And you were talking about this kind of recognition of kind of say like photography or like fashion film being creating a kind of or establishing a certain kind of status now where, you know, it is equivalent to photography or something like that. It's like a kind of thing. And you saw sort of like fashion and gaming as this kind of next frontier, I guess, or this kind of and so I guess I was just kind of curious in terms of like how you see that playing out and sort of like in what, because I think at the moment the kind of fashion and gaming in practice is quite unclear as to where that will go outside of, say, like skins and things like that within games. But like, where do you, is there any things that you kind of see, as kind of like developing in that relationship?
I do think is the natural step. And again, I hope this presentation kind of like showcase how like fashion has always been like very technology hungry and looking forward. And I think most of it comes with accessibility. And realistically, what Unreal did a great job marketing themselves, and also like they're still for free. And so they give people the accessibility to use their tools, which means that people will start exploring more within those worlds. In my opinion, fashion is going to be a way more... It's hard for me to say because, like, generally speaking, I don't, even knowing that I game a lot, I don't spend a lot of times like with character design. I'm too obsessive about winning to actually spend that much time in games and cosmetics. I get really over it really quickly. But I'm a really terrible gamer. But
probably like a really good one, because you're like your eyes on the prize, right? Like you're like, that's some kind of bullshit.
I know. I get really mad. My partner in the back knows that. But anyway, but I do think there is like there's a new generation that actually lives way more online. And I do think if you spend that much time online, then it doesn't matter if it's real or if it's not real. Like fashion is like the first way for you to express yourself. That's why in dictatorships and in really harsh regimes, like the first thing that they do is actually take your freedom to dress how you want, to express yourself through clothing. So I do think people really need that way of expressing themselves. And if you're spending a lot of time online, you're going to do that online. I do think there's a lot of ways of going around it. I think the fashion industry needs to be within game environments, like, because there's where generations are, there's where like the kids are hanging out, like on Minecraft, Roblox. So Fortnite, my nephews are always in Fortnite and they're just hanging out with their friends. So I think fashion needs to be where is relevant to be on and where the money is also at, and that's video game industry. So I think they will be there because of that. But at the same time, I think there's also a door open where creativity can happen through it, where people can actually start designing for video games, for like digital platforms, because we might not spend as much time as we do right now outside. We actually might, if metaverses and things like that come to fruition and we live in this Ready Player One society, we are going to end up spending more and more time online. And then like customization and clothing makes sense. I also think that, I'm jumping through a lot of points, but I'm just trying to summarize everything. But I also think there's something quite cool about, in Fortnite, for example, if you want, you can buy a Balenciaga hoodie. Yeah? Can agree, disagree with the brand, whatever. But I think there is something really interesting about being a young consumer or being a consumer that wouldn't necessarily have the money to buy a real-life Balenciaga hoodie, but that gives you the in of a lot of house codes. And house codes is about like a house like Balenciaga is not just made by what they are right now, but is all a history of it. It's like when you buy that hoodie, you buy into a subculture, you buy into so many references, so many things. So I think skins in video games give you access to it. And at the flip side of it, I also think for example, things like in Death Stranding, with Hideo Kojima, for example, creating amazing games like that. I think there's something that he probably really loves about having his clothes that are designed of his characters. They're designed mainly by Arterix on Death Stranding, but coming back from this digital world into real life, I think the game also gets grounded in reality by doing that. So I think that bridge is going to be crossed both ways.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. No. I mean, I think Gabrielle, who was talking before, who has her accessory brand or whatever, but comes from the digital and kind of gaming first. And so like then. So I think this is really interesting, this kind of like, cross-pollination, I guess. Yeah, great.
Okay.
Thank you, Bjorn.
Thank you.